Take a seat, grab yourself a mug of something tasty. The Story of Beowulf, translated from Anglo-Saxon into modern English prose by Ernest J.B. Kirtlan, 1914. Then it was bidden that hearts should be decked by their hands on the inside, and many there were of the men and wives who adorned that wine hall the guest chamber, many a wonderful sight for every man who stareth upon them. And that bright dwelling was greatly marred, though within it was fast bound with iron, yet the door hinges had sprung apart. The roof alone escaped all safe and sound when the monster turned to flight, despairing of life and doomed for his crimes. Nor will it be easy to escape from that fate, whoever may try to, but we shall get by strife the ready place of the children of men, of the soul-bearers, who dwelleth upon the earth, by a fate that cannot be escaped, where his body shall sleep after the banquet fast in the tomb. Then was the time for Halfdane's son to go into the hall, when the king himself would partake of the banquet. Nor have I heard tell that any people in great numbers bore themselves better about their treasure-giver. And the wealthy ones sat down on the bench and rejoiced in their feeding, and full courteously their kinsmen took many a mead-cup. They, the stout-hearted Hrothgar and Hrothulf in the high hall, and within was heart filled with friends. And by no means were the Danes the while-framing treacheries. Then the son of Halfdane gave to Beowulf the golden banner. The decorated staff banner was as a reward for his conquest, and the helm and the byrnie, and many a one saw the youth bear in front of the bejeweled sword. Beowulf took the cup in the hall, nor did he need to be ashamed of the fee-gift in the presence of warriors. Nor have I heard tell of many men giving to others on any ale-bench 4 gifts gold-decked in friendlier fashion. The outside rim, wound with wires, gave protection to the head on the other side, around the crown of the helmet, so that many an heirloom could not hurt fiercely. The helmet that was hardened by being plunged in cold water when the shield warrior should attack the angry one. The protector of earls commanded 8 horses to be brought in under the barriers, with bridles gold-plated, and the vari-colored saddle was fixed upon one of them, decked out with treasures. And this was the battle seat of the High King when the son of Halfdane would be doing the swordplay. Never in the van did it fail the warriors so widely kenned when the helmets were falling. Then the prince of the Danes gave to Beowulf the wielding of them both, of horses and weapons, and bade him well enjoy them. And thus in manly fashion the famous chieftain, the treasure guardian of heroes, rewarded the battle onslaught with horses and treasures as no man can blame them, whoever will be saying rightly the truth. Then the Lord of Earls, as he sat on the mead bench, gave glorious gifts to each one of those who had fared with Beowulf over the ocean ways, and heirlooms they were, and he bade them atone for that one with gold whom formerly Grendel had wickedly killed, as he would have done more of them, unless Almighty God and the spirit of Beowulf had withstood weird. The Creator ruleth all of humankind, as still he is doing, and good understanding is always the best thing, and forethought of mind, and he who long enjoys here the world in these strife days shall be biding both pleasant and loathsome fate. Then was there clamour and singing together in the presence of the battle prince of Halfdane, and the harp was sounded and a song often sung, and Hrothgar's scope would tell forth the hall mirth as he sat on the mead bench. When fear was befalling the heirs of Finn, the hero of Halfdanes and neph of the Danes must fall in slaughter of the Frisian people, not in the least did Hildeburh need to be praised the troth of the Jutes. For sinlessly was she deprived of her dear ones, in the play of swords, and children, and brothers. By fate they fell, wounded by arrows, and she was a sad woman. Nor without reason did the daughter of Hawk mourn their doom. When morning light came, and she could see under the sky the murder of her kinsmen where she before in the world had the greatest joy, for warfare took away all the thanes of Finn, except a mere remnant, so he could not in the place where they met fight any warfare at all with Hengest, nor seize from the prince's thane the woeful leavings by fighting, but they offered him terms, so that they all made other room for them on the floor, and gave them halls and a high seat that they might have half the power with the children of the Jutes. And the son of Folkwalda honoured the Danes every day with fee-givings, and bestowed rings on the troop of Hengest, yea, even great treasures plated with gold, so that he would be making the kin of the Frisians bold in the beer hall. Then they swore on both sides a treaty of peace. Finn swore with Hengest, and all without strife, that he held in honor the woeful remnant by the doom of the wise men, and that no man there by word or work should break the treaty, or ever annul it through treacherous cunning, though they followed the slayers of their ring-giver, all bereft of their lord, as was needful for them. But if any one of the Frisians, by daring speech, should bring to mind the murderous hate between them, then should the edge of the sword avenge it. Then sworn was that oath, and massive gold was lifted from their hoard. Then was Snef, the best of the warriors, of the bold Danes, ready on the funeral pyre, and the blood-stained shirt of mail was easily seen, the golden boar, in the midst of the flame, the iron hard boar, and many an atheling destroyed by wounds. Some fell on the field of death. Then Hildeburh commanded her very own son to be thrust in the flames of the pyre of Snef, his body to be burned, and be put in the fire. And great was the moaning of the mother for her son, and dirge-like lamenting as the warrior ascended. And the greatest of slaughter fires wound its way upward toward the welkin, and roared before the cavern. Heads were melting, wounds burst asunder. Then blood sprang forth from the wounds of the body. Flame swallowed all, that most cruel of ghosts, of both of those folk whom battle destroyed. Their life was shaken out. Then the warriors went forth to visit the dwellings which were bereft of friends, and to look upon the land of the Frisians, the homesteads, and the high town. And Hengist was still dwelling with Finn that slaughter-stained winter, all bravely without strife, and he thought on the homeland, though he could not be sailing his ringed ship over the waters. The sea boiled with storm and waged war with the wind, and winter locked up the icebound waves till yet another year came in the court, as still it doth, which ever guards the seasons, and the glory bright weather. Then winter was scattered, and fair was the bosom of the earth, and the wanderer strove to go, the guest, from the court. And much more he thought of vengeance for the feud than of the sea voyage, and to how he could bring about an angry encounter, for he bore in mind the children of the Jutes. And so he escaped not the lot of mortals, when Hunlafing did on his arm the best of swords, the flashing light of the battle, whose edge was well known to the Jutes, and dire sword bale after befell the fierce-minded Finn, even in his very own home, when Guthlaf and Oslaf lamented the grim grip of war and the sorrow after sea journeys, and were charging him with his share of the woes. Nor could he hold back his own breast of fluttering soul. Then again was the hall adorned with the bodies of foemen, and Finn was also slain. The king with his troop, and the queen was taken, and the warriors of the Danes carried to the ships all the belongings of the Earth King, such as they could find in the homestead of Finn, of ornaments and jewels. They bore away also the noble wife Hildeburh down to the sea away to the Danes, and led her to her people. So a song was sung, a lay of the gleemen, and much mirth there was, and great noise from the benches, and cupbearers offered wine from wondrous vessels. Then came forth Queen Wealhtheow in her golden circlet, where the two good men were sitting, the uncle and his nephew. And still were they in peace together, and each one true to the other. Likewise Unferth the spokesman sat there at the foot of the lord of the Danes, and each of them trusted Unferth's good heart that he had a great soul, though he was not loyal to his kinsman at the sword-play. Then spake the queen of the Danes, "Take this cup, O my liege lord, thou giver of rings. Be thou right joyful, thou gold friend to men. Do thou speak mild words to the Geats, as a man should be doing. Be glad of thy Geats, and mindful of gifts. Now thou hast peace both near and far. There's no one who told me that thou wouldst have the battle hero for thy son. Now heart is all cleansed, the bright hall of rings. Enjoy whilst thou mayest many rewards, and leave to thy kinsmen both good folk and a kingdom when thou shalt go forth to look on eternity. I know my glad Hrothgar will hold in honor this youth, if thou, O Hrothgar, the friend of Danes, dost leave this world earlier than he. I ween that he will yield good to our children if he remembers all that has passed, how we too worshipfully showed kindness to him in former days, when he was but a child." Then she turned to the bench where her sons Hrothric and Hrothmund, and the children of heroes, the youths, all together. There sat the good man Beowulf of the Geats, by the two brothers. And the cup was borne to them, and a friendly invitation given to them in words, and twisted gold was graciously proffered them. 2 arm ornaments, armor and rings, and the greatest of neck rings of which I heard tell anywhere on earth. Ne'er had I of better hoard jewels of heroes under the sky, since Hama carried away the Brosinga men to the bright city, ornaments and treasure vessel. It was he who fled from the cunning plots of Eormenach and chose eternal gain. Hygelac of the Geats next had the ring. he who was the grandson of Swerding, and under the standard he protected the treasure and defended the plunder. And Weird carried him off when he, because of pride, suffered woes, the feud with the Frisians. Then carried he the jewels, the precious stones over the sea, he who was the ruling prince, and he fell under shield. And the life of the king and the coat of mail and ring together came into possession of the Franks, and worse warriors plundered the slaughter after the war, and the corpses of the Geats held the field of death. The hall resounded with noise when Wealhtheow spake these words in the midst of the court. Enjoy this ring, dearest Beowulf, and use this coat of mail, these national treasures, and good luck befall thee. Declare thyself a good craftsman, and be to these boys gentle in teaching, and I will be mindful of thy guerdon, for that thou hast so acted that men will esteem thee far and near for ever and ever, even as widely as the sea doth encompass the windy earth walls. Be a noble atheling, as long as thou livest. I give thee many treasures. Be thou kindly indeed to my sons, joyful as thou art. For here is each earl true to his fellow, and mild of mood, and faithful to his liege lord. Thanes are gentle, the people all ready. O ye warriors who have drunk deep, do as I tell you. She went to the seat, where was a choice banquet, and the men drank wine. They knew not Weird, the fate that was grim, as it had befallen many an earl. Then evening came on, and Hrothgar betook him to his own quarters. The prince to his resting place, and a great number of earls kept guard over the palace as often they had done in former days. They laid bare the benchboard, and spread it over with beds and bolsters, and one of the beer servants, eager and fated, went to his bed on the floor, and they set at his head war shields that were bright. And over the atheling, there on the bench was easily seen the towering helmet, and the ring byrnie, the glorious spear. It was their wont to be ready for war both at home and in battle, at whatever time their lord had need of them. The season was propitious. Then they sank down to sleep, and sorely some of them paid for their evening repose, as full often it had happened to them since Grendel came to the Gold Hall and did evil, until an end was made of him, death after sins. It was easily seen and widely known to men that an avenger survived the loathsome one for a long time after the war sorrow. A woman, the mother of Grendel, a terrible wife, bore in mind her woes. She who was fated to dwell in the awful lake in the cold stream since Cain became a sword-slayer to his only brother, his father's son. He then went forth marked for the murder, and fled from human joys and dwelt in the waste. And thence he awoke many a fatal demon, and Grendel was one of them, the hateful fierce wolf who found the man wide awake awaiting the battle. And there was the monster at grips with him. Yet he remembered the main strength, the wide and ample gift which God gave him, and trusted in the favor of the Almighty for himself, for comfort and help by which he vanquished the enemy and overcame the hell sprite. Then he departed, abject, bereft of joy, to visit the death place, he the enemy of mankind. But his mother, greedy and sad in mind, would be making a sorrowful journey that she might avenge the death of her son. She came then to Hart, where the Ring-Danes were asleep in that great hall. Then soon there came misfortune to the earls, when the mother of Grendel entered the chamber. Yet less was the terror, even by so much as the craft of maidens. The war terror of a wife is less than that of men beweaponed, when the sword hard bound, and forged by the hammer, and stained with blood, cuts the bore on the helmet of the foe with its edge. Then in the hall the hard edge was drawn, the sword over the seats, and many a broad shield heaved up fast by the hand. And no one heeded the helmet nor the broad shield when terror seized upon them. She was in great haste. She would go thence her life to be saving when she was discovered. Quickly she had seized one of the athelings fast in her grip, when forth she was fleeing away to the fenland. He was to Hrothgar the dearest of heroes, with a number of his comrades by the two seas, a powerful shield warrior, whom she killed as he slumbered. A youth of renown. Beowulf was not there. To another the place was assigned after the treasure gift had been bestowed on the famous Geat. Then a great tumult was made in Hart, and with bloodshed she had seized the well-known hand of Grendel her son, and care was renewed in all the dwellings, nor was that a good exchange that they on both sides should be buying with the lives of their friends. Then was the wise king, the horror-battle warrior, rough in his mood when he came to know that the dearest of his chief thanes was dead and bereft of life, and Beowulf was quickly fetched into the bower, he, the man all victorious. and at the dawning went one of the earls, a noble champion. He and his comrades, where the proud man was waiting, to see whether the all-wielder will ever be causing a change after woe spells, and the bale-worthy man went along the floor with his band of followers. The hallwood was resounding, so that he greeted the wise man with words, the lord of the Danes, and asked him if he had a quiet night in spite of the pressing call.